So picture a classic law firm in your mind, like right now. If you're like most people, you're probably visualizing something straight out of a movie, right?
Oh, definitely. You know, the floor-to-ceiling mahogany bookshelf.
Exactly. The faint smell of old paper and leather, dusty archives. Just these incredibly slow-moving, centuries-old processes that are all governed by strict precedent.
Yeah, I mean, it's an industry that is entirely built on looking backward. The very nature of precedent relies on what has been written down in the past, to dictate the rules of the future.
Right.
And historically, the legal profession has been extremely resistant to changing how those things are recorded, verified, and well stored.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
But right now, that dusty, slow-moving world is colliding head-on with cutting-edge technology.
It really is.
I mean, if you've been following this space, you already know we're seeing AI-powered legal research and massive e-discovery platforms completely reshaping the landscape.
Oh, the landscape is almost unrecognizable in some sectors.
Yeah. But today we are welcoming you to a deep dive into a specific, incredibly powerful potential disruptor, one that is really threatening to rewrite the very foundation of this industry. We are talking about blockchain technology.
Which is a term that inherently carries a lot of baggage, I think.
Oh, for sure.
Usually when people hear it, they immediately think of cryptocurrency volatility or, speculative trading.
Right, the latest crypto crash or whatever.
Exactly. But we're setting all of that aside today to look purely at its underlying architecture. Because the fundamental mechanics of legal record keeping are, frankly, long overdue for a structural upgrade.
Yeah, we want to figure out if this underlying architecture is truly the future of law, or if it's, just another tech trend looking for a problem to solve.
And it's a valid question to ask.
It is. So to get to the bottom of this, we are pulling from a highly recommended, incredibly insightful article titled, "Is Blockchain the Future of Secure Legal Records?"
That is a fantastic piece.
It really is. It comes to us from mormax.net,
Mm-hmm.
and it just offers this fantastic breakdown of where the legal landscape currently stands and where it is inevitably heading. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Because I am genuinely enthusiastic to look past all the typical cryptocurrency hype you hear on the news. I really want to explore how the actual mechanics of this technology might impact everyday, real-world legal issues for you, the listener.
I think that is exactly the right approach. But before we explore how a cryptographic ledger supposedly fixes the legal system, we really need to examine the friction in the current landscape.
Right, like what's actually broken.
Yeah, we need to look at why this legacy architecture is failing under modern demands.
Which is the classic, if it isn't broken, why fix it argument. But anyone who has ever paid a lawyer's hourly rate to verify documents knows it is absolutely showing its cracks.
Oh, it's more than just cracks. I mean, it's a fundamental vulnerability in how we establish truth. Well, currently, the vast majority of legal records are held in centralized databases. And from a security standpoint, a centralized database is just a massive single point of failure.
Because it's all in one place.
Right. If a bad actor breaches that specific system, or if, say, an insider compromises a password, they have the keys to the kingdom. They can access, alter, or destroy highly sensitive legal documents.
And beyond the sheer security risk of a centralized server, you have this massive bottleneck of verification.
Oh, the verification is a nightmare.
Yeah, like if I'm in a dispute, proving that a specific digital document is the original authentic version and then tracking its exact chain of custody over the last 5 years is just awful.
It's incredibly tedious.
It requires human beings to manually verify, access logs, signatures, timestamps. It's just begging for human error or, deliberate manipulation.
Precisely. And that friction really compounds when you introduce interoperability. Legacy systems across different law firms, municipal courts, different international jurisdictions, they just don't communicate natively.
They're all siloed.
Exactly. Securely sharing a verifiable piece of evidence between a court in New York and a firm in London is heavily reliant on manual transmission and secondary verification.
Which I imagine gets expensive fast.
It culminates in astronomical costs. You're effectively paying for hundreds of hours of human labor simply to confirm that a piece of information is what it claims to be.
So we have a system that is structurally vulnerable, bogged down by manual verification, totally disconnected, and wildly expensive.
That's the reality of it, yeah.
And the proposed solution here is blockchain. Now, for those who follow the tech space, you've probably heard the foundational analogy of blockchain as a digital notebook, right? Where every page is a block and they're chronologically chained together.
It's a helpful starting point.
It is, but let's push past the basic definitions. Because If it's essentially just a chronological ledger, but if it's just a digital notebook, what stops someone from simply ripping a page out or using whiteout on a centralized server?
What's fascinating here is the mechanism of how that tampering is prevented. The ledger isn't sitting on a single server where someone can just hit save as and overwrite the file.
Oh,
It's a decentralized, distributed ledger. So the immutability is enforced by a whole network of computers, which we call nodes, often numbering in the thousands, spread globally.
Wow, thousands.
Yeah. But the real magic is in the cryptography, specifically a process called hashing.
Right, the hashing, there's like the mathematical fingerprint of the document, right?
Exactly, a mathematical fingerprint. When a legal document is entered into a block, it is run through a cryptographic algorithm that generates a unique fixed-length string of characters. That's the hash.
And that hash is unique to that specific document.
Entirely. It is entirely dependent on the exact contents of that document. If a bad actor tries to change a single comma in a 500-page contract, or even just change a lowercase a to an uppercase a, the resulting hash completely changes.
It just completely breaks.
It undergoes what's called an avalanche effect. The new hash looks nothing like the old one.
So you don't even need to read the 500-page document to know it's been tampered with.
Nope.
The math just tells you instantly because the fingerprints no longer match, and because each block contains the hash of the previous block. Changing that one comma doesn't just invalidate that specific page. It literally breaks the entire mathematical chain following it.
That is the crucial mechanism right there. If someone tries to alter their localized copy of the ledger, the rest of the thousands of nodes on the network instantly see that the math no longer aligns.
They just reject it.
Exactly, they flag the tampered version as invalid and reject the change. Once data is recorded and consensus is reached by the network, it is mathematically impossible to alter or delete it without compromising the entire global network simultaneously.
Okay, that makes total sense. We have an unhackable, unerasable digital ledger where the math inherently proves the authenticity.
Right.
But applying that to the legal field brings up a massive red flag for me.
Let's hear it.
Well, blockchain is famous for being inherently transparent, right? Like anyone on a public network like Bitcoin can see the ledger.
They can, yes?
So if I'm a lawyer handling a highly sensitive corporate merger or, I don't know, a sealed settlement, I absolutely do not want thousands of random computers having visibility into my client's data. Doesn't this completely destroy attorney-client privilege?
It absolutely would if the legal sector were to adopt fully public blockchains.
Okay, so they aren't doing that.
No, that isn't the proposed architecture at all.
Yeah.
The legal industry would rely on what are known as permissioned blockchains.
Permission blockchain.
Yeah. These systems utilize advanced cryptographic techniques to balance the immutable verification of the network with the strict confidentiality required by law.
So the network still mathematically verifies that the transaction or the document is valid, but the actual contents are hidden.
Correct. The network consensus mechanisms verify the hashing and the timestamps, proving a document was created or a transaction occurred at a specific moment. But the data payload itself is heavily encrypted. Only authorized parties, for example, you, your attorney, and perhaps a presiding judge, are granted the specific cryptographic keys required to decrypt and actually read the contents of that specific record.
Oh, that's clever.
It is. You get the mathematical certainty of a public ledger with the privacy of a walled garden.
Which creates this irrefutable audit trail. Every single step of a document's life, when it is created, when it is modified, when it is accessed, is permanently timestamped.
Exactly.
And crucially, modifying a document doesn't overwrite the old version. It just adds a new timestamped block to the chain. So you never lose the historical context.
That's spot on. And because the encrypted records are distributed across authorized nodes, you completely eliminate the risk of a single point of failure.
So no more worrying about a server crashing.
Right. A localized ransomware attack on a specific law firm server doesn't destroy or compromise your critical legal documents because identical, encrypted, and mathematically verified copies exist across the permission network.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Once you establish this layer of absolute frictionless trust, you can start automating the law.
Yes, the automation piece is huge.
The real game changer here is the concept of smart contracts. Now, let's bypass the jargon for a second. Think of a smart contract like a digital vending machine for legal assets.
I like that analogy.
You don't need a clerk to hand you a soda. You put the coin in, the machine mechanically verifies the payment, and the soda drops automatically. A smart contract does this with code.
Right, it's deterministic.
The actual terms of a legal agreement are written directly into self-executing code. If condition X is met, action Y is instantly triggered.
It is a brilliant analogy. The code literally becomes the enforcement mechanism.
Wow.
If you are handling an escrow agreement, the smart contract monitors the transaction. The second the payment clears the bank API, the code automatically and instantaneously transfers the digital property deed to the buyer.
So no manual paperwork.
None. There is no waiting for a human to verify the funds and manually file the paperwork.
But wait, if the contract executes itself automatically when conditions are met, handling escrow and property transfers, doesn't that completely remove the need for intermediaries? Are we automating the lawyers out of a job?
It is a very common anxiety in the industry, actually. But the reality is a shift in responsibilities, not a wholesale replacement.
Okay, how so?
Well, smart contracts drastically minimize human error and eliminate administrative intermediaries, which radically accelerates the process. But you still need legal expertise to determine what the parameters of that code should
If
go.
somebody has to write the rules.
Exactly. Lawyers transition from being manual verifiers of paperwork to becoming the legal architects of these automated agreements. They have to ensure that the deterministic code actually reflects the nuanced legal intent of the parties involved.
So they essentially become legal programmers.
In a way, yes.
Okay, so we had this theoretical foundation of immutable records and automated execution. Let's ground this for the listener. Where are you actually going to encounter this in the real world? Like, how does this change your life?
The applications are surprisingly vast, actually. Take intellectual property as a primary example.
Okay, IP.
Currently, proving you were the first to create a piece of music, a specific algorithm, or a design is a really complex process. With blockchain, creators can hash and timestamp their digital files on the ledger the absolute second they are created.
Oh, that's huge.
It establishes mathematical, irrefutable proof of ownership and a definitive creation date, long before a formal copyright office even processes an application.
That is a massive paradigm shift for independent creators trying to protect their work in a digital age. You don't have to mail a sealed copy of a manuscript to yourself anymore. You just anchor the hash to the blockchain.
Oh, yeah. Buying a house is the worst.
Right now, buying a house is an archaic process involving title searches, escrow companies, and just endless manual verifications to ensure the seller actually owns the property and there are no hidden liens against it.
It takes weeks. It does. But if property titles and deeds lived on an immutable ledger, a smart contract could verify the entire history of a property in milliseconds. You cut out weeks of lengthy verifications and drastically reduce the statistical likelihood of title fraud.
Corporate governance also gets a massive upgrade here, right? Securing board resolutions, shareholder votes, and equity distributions on a blockchain guarantees absolute accountability.
Yes, the transparency is key there.
Because no executive can claim a vote was manipulated or a resolution was altered after the fact, because the math just won't allow it.
Exactly.
But honestly, my absolute favorite application has to be evidence management.
Oh, the criminal justice implications.
Yeah. Think about every high-stakes TV courtroom drama you have ever watched. So much of the plot revolves around the defense questioning the chain of custody. Who had access to the evidence locker? Was this hard drive tampered with?
It is the foundation of reasonable doubt in so many digital forensics cases.
Exactly. Now imagine how the entire plot of that show changes if every single time a piece of digital evidence was logged, moved, copied, or accessed by police, that action was hashed and locked into an unbreakable digital chain.
It changes everything.
The defense couldn't cross-examine a witness about tampering because the mathematical audit trail is absolute. So what does this all mean for the average person?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, for you, the listener, this technology is about the systematic removal of friction and anxiety.
Friction and anxiety, I like that.
It means moving toward a legal landscape where you can buy a house, execute a loved one's will, or protect your business ideas without the lingering fear of lost paperwork, fraudulent claims, or paying exorbitant hourly fees just to prove a document is authentic.
Wow.
It replaces blind trust in a vulnerable human system with absolute cryptographic certainty.
But let's pump the brakes for a second here. If this ecosystem of absolute trust is so mathematically perfect and the efficiencies are this obvious, why isn't every major law firm in the world already running their operations on a blockchain? Because we're clearly not there yet.
No, we aren't, and the transition is going to be incredibly difficult. There are massive systemic reality checks that need to be addressed.
Like what?
The first, and arguably the most difficult, is the regulatory framework. The laws currently on the books simply were not designed for cryptographic execution.
Oh, right. The law has to recognize it.
Exactly. For a smart contract to be truly useful, a judge actually needs to recognize its automated execution as legally binding.
Right. You can have the most secure, mathematically perfect digital contract in the world. But if a local municipal court looks at it and says, we don't recognize code, we only accept wet ink signatures on A4 paper and a notary stamp, you are completely stuck. The code means nothing if the state won't enforce it.
That's the crux of it. We need clear, unified legal recognition of blockchain records across all jurisdictions, and we are nowhere near that consensus.
Not even close.
Then you have to address the sheer technical fallibility of the system.
Because every transaction requires cryptographic verification across the whole network.
Yes. The sheer volume of global legal transactions, emails, contracts, filings, deeds, is just staggering.
I can't even imagine.
The throughput required to process all of that data instantaneously on a decentralized network is immense. While the technology is improving rapidly, many networks still struggle to handle that kind of volume without bottlenecking or incurring massive computational costs.
Which brings us to the actual implementation. Let's talk about cost and IT integration.
Always a painful subject.
Oh yeah. Anyone who has ever tried to get an old office printer to connect to a new laptop knows the pain of IT integration. Now imagine trying to plug a decentralized cryptographic ledger into a law firm's computer system from 2008.
It would be a monumental architectural nightmare.
Total disaster.
The legacy systems that currently run the legal world are deeply, deeply entrenched. Ripping out that plumbing and replacing it with blockchain architecture requires a massive capital investment, not to mention the operational downtime.
And even if you manage the IT integration, you still have to deal with the humans.
That is the final and perhaps most stubborn hurdle: education and cultural resistance.
People hate change.
They really do. You are asking an industry that is fundamentally steeped in tradition, an industry that prides itself on precedent, to entirely relearn the mechanical plumbing of their profession.
Right.
Senior partners have to trust a mathematical consensus mechanism they don't fully understand over the physical filing systems they have used for 40 years.
It is a massive cultural shift.
It is. This raises an important question about the fundamental pacing of innovation. Technology, especially in the realm of cryptography and automation, is moving at warp speed.
Yeah, blink and you miss it.
But the legal framework, by design, moves at a cautious walk. For widespread adoption to actually happen, the law must first catch up to the technology, and the professionals within that system must be culturally willing to adapt.
It is an incredibly steep hill to climb. So to synthesize this deep dive for you today, blockchain is not a magic bullet.
No, it's not.
It is not going to suddenly fix the slow, expensive, and bureaucratic legal system by next Tuesday. However, its core underlying attributes, the mathematical immutability, the verifiable transparency balanced with encrypted privacy, and the decentralized security offer incredibly compelling structural advantages over our current hackable manual systems.
Absolutely.
This isn't just a fleeting crypto trend. Forward-thinking law firms and corporate legal departments are already launching pilot programs to get ahead of the curve.
Because they recognize that the foundational way society establishes trust and the way we verify the truth of a transaction is fundamentally shifting.
So keep this in the back of your mind. Your most important, highly sensitive personal documents, the title to your home, the intellectual property of that startup you're launching, your last will and testament might very soon be distributed, encrypted, and chained together across a global network for your own protection.
It is a profound historical shift. We are moving from a system of trust anchored in paper, stamps, and filing cabinets to a system of trust anchored in mathematics and cryptography.
We really are. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to mull over. Something building directly off our discussion of those self-executing smart contracts.
Okay, let's hear it.
So the inherent value of a smart contract is that it's incredibly efficient because it is deterministic.
Yeah.
It's based on rigid code.
Right.
If X happens, Y is instantly and unalterably triggered. But the human legal system, as slow and frustrating as it can be, has historically relied on something code doesn't possess: human judgment. Exactly. Context. A human judge can evaluate intent. A judge can look at a situation and realize that a contract was breached because of a natural disaster or an unforeseen personal tragedy, and they can apply mercy.
Code doesn't do mercy.
Code doesn't care about hurricane, and it doesn't care about good faith. If the payment doesn't clear, the code automatically forecloses on the asset. So, if we are moving toward a future where we hard code our legal agreements into an unalterable automated blockchain, how on earth do we program human nuance, contextual judgment, and mercy into a rigid, self-executing machine?
That right there is the ultimate tension we are going to face. It is the collision between the cold perfection of deterministic code and the messy, unpredictable imperfection of human life.
It really makes you wonder if we might eventually miss those dusty, slow-moving archives when we are faced with the unyielding reality of automated law. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems that govern your world.